steadily rising.
Are you ready for us,
Drowning
Natalie?
Creek.
Swimming with the dolphins.
We're waiting.
Even walking on the mountain in the rain. Well,
Okay. I am now calling to order the Wednesday, February 11th, 2015 meeting of the Open Space and Ecology Committee. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda, please?
I have a question about the agenda. I need to report back to this committee on the subcommittee meeting, or the meeting of the Sustainability Committee, which I attended last night. So I'm not sure whether we need to alter the agenda or not, but I do need to give a report back tonight.
Would you want to do that under chair and committee member matters?
Yes, please.
Barbara?
If the committee's in agreement.
yeah,
Sure.
I have a couple things for that too. But I have one I think kind of goes under oral communications.
Could we see the agenda on our screens by any chance? Ah, great, thank you.
Is everybody ready to proceed?
Yeah, I approve I
Move.
move to approve the agenda.
I second.
All in
Yeah.
favor?
Yeah.
Aye. Good job. All right, Michelle, you mentioned you might have some oral communication.
I do have oral communications. I would like to invite everyone to come to the Mission Blue Nursery for the plant sale of native plants grown from San Bruno Mountain on February 21st, Saturday, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Mission Blue Nursery. And you can go to mountainwatch.org for instructions on how to get there if you don't know, but it's right behind the firehouse. All of the plants are grown legally from seed collected on San Bruno Mountain, and all proceeds go to back to the mountain to support our stewardship work and habitat restoration work. So please come.
You mind if I just clarify that that driveway is northbound on Bay Shore, south of the fire station, and you don't access it through the fire station driveway?
You do not access it through the fire station. What you do is when you come out of central Brisbane, can't come out of Crocker Park, you have to come out of central Brisbane, you turn northbound on Bay Shore, and then take the very first right-hand turn like you were going to machinery equipment. And that little road leads to the Mission Blue Nursery.
There's usually a sign out there on sale days that says plant sale, so it's pretty easy
Yeah.
to see.
And hopefully it'll be posted on the board and also on the city website and blog.
It's a nice walk.
And it's a great plant sale.
I believe I saw it on the San Mateo County Parks website, too.
Yep.
Oh, great.
Any other oral communications from our committee members? No? All right. Jumping on to number 3, I've already had a motion for the approval of the minutes.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Number 4, chair and committee members.
I have
Member matters.
really 3 items.
All right. Glenn has something.
Do you want to go first, Glenn? Or
I also have, I think, 2 items, although I can only recall one of them since I left my notes at home. Yeah, that's me, Stellar Barb today. Mike, do you have anything you'd like to?
No.
No, Akima?
No.
All right. Well, why don't we go ahead and start with Michelle?
Okay, I have 2 things. One, I went to the Technical Advisory Committee meeting for San Bruno Mountain Habitat Conservation Plan, and they are less than thrilled with having the public attend on a regular basis and getting all of the documents in advance of publication. And so I wanted to request that I represent the Open Space and Ecology Committee on the San Bruno Mountain Habitat Conservation Plan Technical Advisory Committee, so that I am actually a member of the TAC and not a general member of the public.
May I ask how many members of the public are there being an annoyance?
None. I think I'm the only member of the public that has shown up in the last year. But it was an item on the discussion on the agenda, and it was the first time I've shown up for probably a year, simply because it's been really hard for me to get there with work. And although I do want, and last year was a tough year, you know, but I do want to participate more and be able to review the documents before they're published, and be able to review the work plans before they're published. And San Bruno Mountain Watch is represented, of course, by Joe Cannon and Iris and Chris. And City of Brisbane is not really represented in that way, although Clay Holstein sits on the board, the governing board for the HCP. So I would like to be appointed as the the OSEC representative to the TAC.
I certainly have no objection to that. I was just a little bit curious about why they're
Yeah, me too.
talking
I
about.
was as well, and it was really one fellow from Fish and Wildlife who was a little bit like, well, I don't really always feel comfortable with the public, and the public is disruptive, and I'm like, okay, really? I don't know what, I mean, he handles a lot of HCPs, so I was just kind of surprised, and but I thought, okay, well, I still intend to go, but I noticed that the person who leads the meetings did not send me the documents I had requested in advance, so maybe they may have been too big for my spam filter, I don't know.
Would this help? I
Yes.
mean, if you were.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Because then I would be an official member of the TAC, and just as part of my, I would say qualifications is I did get my degree in botany and ecology. And
No, I've no problem with it, and I'm fine with it. I just don't like the idea of their, trying to exclude the public.
I
So
didn't like that either.
maybe you can actually object to that if it comes up again,
Yeah. Well, I would have to object to it as a member of the TAC.
right? But that's probably a better place from which to object.
Did you broach this idea with them
Yes, I did.
and
They were fine with that.
receive it?
So
Or it seemed like they were fine with that.
Who's leads it?
Ramona?
Okay.
So I would like to make a motion that this committee approve Michelle as the OSEC representative to the Technical Advisory Committee for the Habitat Conservation Plan.
For San Bruno Mountain.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
Thank
right.
you. I will let Ramona know.
Do you want that to be anything official from the city? I mean, that probably would.
That would be great. That would be great, Karen.
And you can report back to us?
Yes, I will
Okay.
definitely report back to you after each TAC meeting.
And how often are those meetings? Are they quarterly?
Like quarterly. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. The other two items I have is one is about trees in the community park.
Yes, I
And-
heard about that too.
When we first planted the trees last year, and then we looked at the agreement, the rental agreement, and I suggested we planted trees. Natalie dug holes,
Right.
brought her friends to help dig holes. I dug holes.
No, it's just a rental agreement.
Well, there's a rental agreement for people who rent the park
Oh,
that
okay.
they have to sign, and we had requested that PB&R add into it that is about not damaging the trees and not using them for piñatas and climbing on and a lot of the things that they do. And I feel personally that I've seen severe damage to our trees from that type of activity over the past, since the park's been open. And then there's been a lot of, kids who climb on the Christmas tree and some of them climb quite high, which I think is a little dangerous, but it's also not particularly good for the tree. But in particular, our young trees. And so I kind of want us to readdress that with parks, beaches, and recreation, that I think that we should take a little bit more proactive role in protecting the trees that we have in our parks and in all of our parks, because they are, a valuable resource, and people come from out of town and don't take the same care and concern over the trees that that we do, and maybe even suggest, a permanent piñata pole or something like that to be installed in the park, so that people aren't tempted to use the trees for piñatas, and that type of thing. And then along the same lines, when Sean Sweeney was with the Open Space and Ecology Committee, he brought up the fact that our current Christmas tree is really not suitable long term. The long term viability of the tree is not really great for the job we want it to do. It's already showing a lot of wear, especially at the top wind shear and that type of thing. And he had suggested when he was on the committee, especially looking at trees, and he has a long experience of that, is to now plant a new Christmas tree of an appropriate species that will grow long and tall and strong, a little bit to the southeast of the current tree, and let it get going and get started and grow up before the other tree expires, so that we don't have the same issue of that we had with planting a fully grown tree and it having to adapt and not doing well in the circumstances that it is in.
It's also cheaper.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that too. I mean, the current tree was a very generous gift and it's very beloved, but the reality is, I'm sure a lot of people would still like there to be like a really cool Christmas tree there in 20 years from now, and that one probably won't be, especially if it continues to be assaulted by little hands and feet who love to climb it. I mean, I like to climb trees too, but it is kind of a dangerous one to climb, and there's not any soft place to land. It's all rocks underneath it.
Liability issue too.
So speaking from the perspective of, the health of the trees, do we have any documentation of damage? I mean, I'm all for, putting a clause about respecting the trees just like any other, city property, and having maybe a dedicated piñata pole sounds like a pretty nifty idea, but have we had any, or have there been incidents of damages that have been documented so that we could use that to support our claim? Because at the end of the day, liability issues and things like that aren't really the purview of our thing, but the health of the trees and the open space certainly is. And I also kind of don't want to come across as too my daughter loves climbing on that tree. I will be the first to admit that I don't want to be one of those towns that comes across like, well, there's no dancing here in our town or whatever, like it's just climbing trees. And if the kid, falls and sprains her ankle or whatever, then that's how they learn to climb trees better or pick up another hobby, so.
In so many ways, I agree with you, Keeman. I certainly don't want to. I think anti-stupidity legislation is awful. I don't think we should have a safety belt law. I think people should just be smart about it and wear a safety belt. And as far as documented cases of damage to the trees, I guess you'd have to talk to Public Works.
Yeah.
I do remember that, and this is my memory, which may be faulty, but one of the eucalyptus trees, the one closest to San Francisco Street and closest to us, was damaged badly before it was taken out by heavy use.
Yeah.
And people dumping ashes and dumping their fluids and crap on the roots and then abusing it for piñatas.
Yeah.
And pulling on the branches and breaking the branch off.
Yeah, I'm not against inserting some language in the contract or even putting up a little sign or whatever, but if we wanted to pursue that, I think it would be good to show, that something has happened.
Yeah.
And that would at least say, hey, well, we have a reason for doing this, and here's the evidence.
Well, I certainly don't have access to Public Works logs about damage to trees or whatever. So I don't know if we don't have the appetite to pursue it, fine. But I do think it. I like kids to be able to climb trees. I think
It doesn't change the fact that we could put legislation in, or, wording into these contracts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sign the contract, say
Um,
that you would be responsible for whatever damage is done to said city property, including trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as far as keeping the kids from climbing the trees, that ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
'Cause
I think it's more.
kids see trees, they climb trees.
Yeah.
Now you put a little sign up that says, please do not climb the trees, you're gonna get half of them to not climb the tree, so that's half less, so.
Yeah.
It's worth doing.
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of my feeling on it.
And then about the new tree, I think that's a great idea. I think
Then thanks, Sean, for that.
planning ahead, yeah, that's great. I fully support that.
I'm a little more with Kima on this. I mean, some of these kids, even our own town, live in little concrete boxes. And, if they can climb a tree and not fall down and not land on the city's insurance policy, great. More power to them. And if a small branch gets broken, that doesn't really affect the health of the tree, to be honest. Some plants benefit from pruning because that encourages new growth. I couldn't speak specifically to any of the trees we have in our park, but
Okay.
as as long as they're not taking down big branches.
Well, some of the kids that climb in the trees,
Yeah.
especially the young trees, are a little bit.
The young trees should not be climbed. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's true. The young trees
young trees
really
should not be
shouldn't
climbed.
and
Absolutely. It's not safe. It's
And-
not even very sporting.
And people who come to rent think nothing of hammering nails in the trees, think nothing of throwing ropes over the limbs and practically sawing the tree off with So it's my opinion. If no one else feels that we should take further steps to protect the trees, fine.
I like Michael's idea of putting a clause in the contract, including trees, maybe underlining it, saying you're responsible for any damage that you do. And maybe just please ask your kids to stay off the younger trees so they have a chance to grow up. We could try that and see if that works.
Well, it really comes under PBNR, so we have to
Yeah.
make a formal recommendation to them.
And PBR has not been very interested in this topic.
No.
So I think,
But real quick, the tree that's there currently, the Christmas tree, now that was donated by the Brisbane Lions Club, was it not?
I don't know who donated. I actually
Pretty sure
think
it was. So if it was, we should go to the Brisbane Lions Club again and ask them if they could help us plant a new one, explaining what's going on, and I'm sure they'd be more than happy to join in.
Do you know anybody in the Brisbane Lions Club, Michael?
one person on this
Okay. I think that'd be awesome. I'm not sure who donated the current tree.
Yeah, I can check. I'm pretty sure the Lions were involved
Yeah.
with that. I don't know if they did it all, or because it was a full-grown tree, so I doubt they
pretty
could afford all of it.
Huge. But we should also have an arborist, or maybe Sean Sweeney would recommend an appropriate tree that would do well there, knowing it's going to have kind of wet roots and that it needs to be big and strong and
Christmassy.
And they're all going to bend to the shape of the wind. There's just no way
Yeah.
around that.
right. This particular tree suffered a lot of wind shear.
Unfortunately, the only thing that protects trees from wind shear is being in a stand of trees.
Well, this is the thing, is that the new tree will be protected from wind shear by the old tree for quite a while.
Hopefully, yeah, that is a good point. If we plant it the right side
In the right place.
in the right place.
Yeah.
I personally would like to scale back what we are asking of PBR, and if we could possibly ask them just to take steps to protect the young trees. I feel like we might get a little further.
Can you not recommend anything specific?
Or specifically ask them to put contract that people are not to touch the young trees.
I didn't say touch. I said not to damage them. Not
Okay,
to
not to
play on
damage
them,
them, not to
hang
plant.
pinatas from them and
Yes.
stick nails in them and other things like that.
Okay,
That it be part of their rental agreement and part of their deposit.
pardon?
I vaguely remember reading that language at one point. Isn't it already in there?
We asked for it to be, and they did not incorporate it.
Yeah, I remember watching that meeting, and they did say they would be okay with protecting young trees, but I think they didn't really agree with the idea of kids not climbing the mature trees or tying them. They didn't feel like then at that point it wouldn't be a welcoming park for recreation. So I don't know if it would help writing a letter or going to one of their meetings. I'm not really sure what would move that forward, but they did say that
Yeah.
when we proposed it the first time.
Well, with the mature trees, a kid climbing it is not going to hurt it. But somebody, putting nails in it and hanging off of it and that type of thing will. So that's why I'm saying there needs to be a distinction, I think, between what kind of activities.
It sounds like there's pretty good consensus maybe on this, on our panel as well as with the Parks and Rec about the young trees. So maybe pursuing that would be more, I don't want to say any of the trees abused. I don't think climbing is abused, but obviously
don't
there's
either.
other stuff. But if we focus on the young trees, especially as Natalie was saying, they're more amenable to that. We'll start with the low-hanging fruit, so to speak.
Yes, since we've already
As
failed.
opposed to the low-hanging kids.
Yes, yes. So none of those are fruit trees, are they? Maybe just writing them, maybe we should check the language of the contract and see if they actually put it in. Maybe.
Well, and if they agreed to it at a meeting, maybe it's just an administrative matter to get them to follow through and put it in.
Yeah. So would we like to possibly write a letter, or would somebody like to go to PB&R and ask them on behalf of the OSEC?
Is there any way that staff could just convey this concern? Because I assume that staff has
That's what I was
liaison
gonna
to
say.
their.
Sure.
Yeah, and if it's already been discussed and it's just a matter of getting it into the contract, then we can.
Maybe you
Step
could
back.
give us a sense at our next meeting what their take on everything was.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it for me. Sorry, I didn't realize it was going to be a long discussion.
So does that cover all three of your matters, Michelle?
It absolutely does.
I'd like to go on to Glenn if you're ready.
Okay, so I've been serving for the last 2 years, I guess it is, maybe longer, as this committee's liaison to the City Sustainability Committee, which is charged with writing a sustainability plan for the Baylands, which sets out a set of principles and key performance indicators for each principle, and then makes suggestions about how to implement those principles in the construction of the Baylands development. These are the principles that are supposed to guide the whole thing. So we've been working on it. It's a big fat document now, and we just about have a complete draft. And so the next step is to actually ask this committee and the Planning Commission to review that draft. And when the Sustainability Committee met last night, and there's also a representative from the Planning Commission on it, what we thought might be a good idea is to have a joint meeting of this committee, the Planning Commission, a kind of a workshop to go over this thing and sort of do it all in one shot rather than have it, spread out to all the committees and reporting back. So that's my report, and we can do with it what we will. It seems to me that the next step is to ask staff if they would like to try to coordinate a meeting, including this committee and the Planning Commission and the consultant, Andrea, who's been the major author of this document. And either Cliff or Ray can fill you in further if you need further filling in.
I have a question. Would we get a copy of the document to review prior to that?
Yeah,
This is an older draft.
yeah.
I think Natalie sent it to me, my request.
We're looking at, I think, March. Wait a minute, March or April, but sometime fairly soon. But yes, committee members would need to see the document. Maybe it could even go out in its current form.
I'd certainly be in favor of that. And Glenn, I just really want to thank you for all of the amazing work and the time that you've put into this.
Yeah.
There's no one that could represent us better than you.
Thank you. I didn't want to be on this.
I know, but I'm so glad that you have been
Yeah.
and are.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time on it, and I think we've done a pretty good job. But So I'm kind of being vague about the mechanics, but that's what we'd like to do, and we need to get on it fairly soon. So you may need to do some checking with, well, Clay's on the sustainability committee, so there are lots of people you can check with. Like, at what point do we cut off construction of the document and circulate the document to the committee and all that kind of thing?
And who would have a copy of it? The final.
Well, I've got all the members of the sustainability committee have copies of the current version,
Okay.
but I frankly am a little bit vague on whether the current version was the version that we want to send out because we made some more edits to it last night. So it could depend on Andrea, the consultant, when she input, how soon she gets the most recent set of changes incorporated into it.
Okay.
Any particular days of the week that work for you guys? I mean, we gotta assume it's probably gotta be an evening meeting, right?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
the planning commission meets on Wednesdays. They meet on a different Wednesday than we do.
Thursdays now.
Oh, are they?
Alternate Thursdays to the council, yeah.
That's fine with me. Oh, but that's when they meet, so you don't want to do it when they meet.
Well, it could, I think it could overlap either with one of our regular meetings or one of their regular meetings. Or we could choose an entirely different day.
Or a Monday. Monday.
Monday's not good for me because I have a class that goes till 7.
Tuesdays I have a class, but other than that, I'm free.
So I think Wednesday or Thursday because this committee meets on Wednesdays, so we know that, we're available.
Generally.
And we
Um,
can see if they would be willing to come on a Wednesday, or if they're not, maybe we could meet on a Thursday.
A Thursday's better for me. I do have a class on Wednesdays that I miss once a month for this already. But, it's fine if it's a Wednesday.
Yeah, Thursday works for me.
Okay.
Sorry, it's going to be messy, but it does make sense, I think, to do it with all of us looking at it. And somebody will be, I think Andrea would come to sort of lead us through. She can summarize, what we've done and what she's done. She's supplied a lot of the technical recommendations that we've looked at. So it makes sense to try to do one big meeting rather than a bunch of little ones.
I'll say that I agree with you wholeheartedly, Glenn, that it makes sense to do one big meeting as long as people have read it in advance.
Right.
Because if they haven't read it in advance, the meeting is just going to disintegrate into 30 pieces of chaos.
Well, yes, I think that reading it in advance is a good thing, and I hope people will do it. But one of the advantages of having a meeting where Andrea can be present is that she can actually walk people through it. And so even if people have just skimmed it or not read it all that carefully, they'll still get a pretty good idea of what's in it
Okay.
when she's there to talk about it, to present it.
All right. Are we all agreed upon this course?
Yes.
Oh.
So do you guys need a formal directive from us in the form of a motion, or have we given you enough to go on with?
I think
Natalie,
so.
when you put the information out, can you just make sure that you really note that it's a Thursday meeting? Keep me from showing up on Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah, I did send out several emails. I don't know if everyone else got them, that the day was switched and then it's on the agenda that's posted and it's in the slideshow. So yeah, I'll try to make an extra big note this time.
And a special one just to me. Especially the new
Thursday
people.
meeting.
Okay. Okay, so I left my notes at home. We're still on number 4. And I mentioned to you in an email, Natalie, something I wanted to talk about, and I didn't bring my piece of paper. Do you happen to remember?
Was it not 5A?
No.
Environmental procurement policy?
No, it wasn't. You'd already set the agenda, and so we decided I would just bring it up under chair and committee matters.
Oh, science fair.
Oh, science fair. Thank you, Natalie. Natalie gets her gold star for the day. So, as you all know, I was supposed to liaison with the Litman about the science fair. through no lack of emails on my and Natalie's part, was a very, the ball was stuck in the mud for the long time. It simply did not roll, despite our repeated pushings. But I did manage to, I think once everything was settled and set, and they were in the home stretch, then they were perfectly willing to talk to me and participate and collaborate. So maybe it was just a stress thing. That's what I'm going with anyway. I spent the morning over at Littman looking at the various projects that had to do with ecology. And then I spent the afternoon putting together awards, which Karen helped me with and made them beautiful. And that evening I then went and presented them. And unfortunately, without my notes, I cannot tell you the names. I'm very much ashamed. I'll have to send it to Natalie in email so that she can send it all out to everyone so that they can receive thanks at the next OSEC meeting. But I gave one first place award to somebody who did an experiment with watering plants with gray water and measuring the growth of the plants versus tap water. And then I gave 3 runner-up prizes, one to a pinwheel project that studied she was doing some gathering information about the size and shape of the blades and the speed of the rotation. And another one was called Fruit, and it was comparing organic to GMO apples, and which the students preferred the taste of. And the third and final one was the amount of water needed to keep grass healthy. So I thought those were all excellent projects, and my inability to remember the names of the students is no reflection on their work. It's simply me forgetting my paper. But yeah, it was great. I mean, the kids who got the Ecology Award were absolutely glowy. So it was worth doing. And then, maybe next year we can make our dreams come true about actually participating at the topic level. That's my hope. Although I want to say right now is that I want to recuse myself from this activity next year, because next year my son will be participating in the Littman Science Fair. And so somebody else from Open Space and Ecology will need to be judging this, because otherwise I would just give all the prizes to my son.
I'm sure he'd win anyway.
The other matter is that I did follow up with Francisco at the library, and I did get more information about if we brought personal things to add to the OSEC shelf, they would in fact not have any way to guarantee that those came back. So I had originally hoped that we could contribute personal things, because I know I've got some great DVDs sitting on my shelf that I would like to see more use. But I'm a little personally reluctant to just send them off into the great beyond. But he did explain to me the process about requisitioning things from other libraries, and we can do that. So what I would like to do, because I don't know everything, obviously, is to get a list of 5 to 10 things: books, videos, articles, YouTube shorts, whatever. Let's just say 10 things from each committee member, knowing that there's going to be some overlap, about ideas that we could put on this shelf. It could even be a plant from the Mission Blue nursery with a little tag on it saying, plants, this is an example of a plant, whatever. They're going to give us a decent amount of space.
Will they water the plant?
Well, I assume so. They managed to not kill the other plants there, so. But I was just thinking that was just an out of a box example. It doesn't have to be that, but I would like creative suggestions from
So
everyone.
are these to be displayed, or are they to be borrowed by users of the library, or I'm
Yes.
not clear on.
They will make us, we will have a little shelf or two of display, and people will be able to check out things from that shelf, and when they return them, they will go back to that shelf.
So they're going to make special checkout arrangements for those things.
They'll put it into their computer that it belongs to this sub-collection. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that it's supposed to go back to our shelf unless somebody on another library has a hold on to it, an interlibrary loan request for it, in which case it'll go out to them and then come back to our shelf.
So that would only be the case if it was things that were on interlibrary loan. That
No.
would not necessarily be the case for things that we supply, where we don't mind taking our own risk of losing it.
If you decide that you want to put your personal property there and risk losing it, that will not go out on interlibrary loan.
That won't go out on loan, or that's different than the stuff that
Okay.
goes in on an interlibrary loan.
So somebody could walk out the door with it, but it won't. If you want to give something and say this is not to be checked out, this is strictly for reference.
What if you give stuff that can be checked out?
Okay, I thought I answered that.
So
So
you just said that it would be at our own risk.
yeah, okay. So if you wanted to donate a personal item to the shelf, they could. It wouldn't be in their system. They could give a ticket to the person saying, "Please bring it back by this date." But if they didn't, they would have no
Recourse.
recourse
Right.
over
Okay.
that.
Are they willing to do a separate ticket system for that stuff?
Yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable asking them to do that, which is why I feel we really need to minimize or possibly not even put personal things in there. But if you feel strongly that you have something personal that you want to contribute, they are willing to take that step.
So basically, I think what you're asking is we need to locate resources that the library already owns that we would like to see on that shelf.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry I did not put it that succinctly. I was trying to cram in too much other information, but yes, Glenn, if you go through the library's resources and
Is this the county library, or is this the Brisbane library?
county, we can bring in things from the county.
All right.
And he did give me a list of libraries that are better at letting stuff go join other collections semi-permanently. But I'll email that.
Okay.
I thought, so personal things, I'm not going to say no. That's your choice. But I thought I would like to ask the city for a small amount of funds. We have a small amount of money at our disposal. And just to fill in a couple of things that maybe people feel are valuable, but we aren't able to pull in from the county collection. And I was wondering how the rest of the committee felt about that.
Personally, I'd kind of like to see what the county has first. One thing that might be good to do, I don't know if the library staff could do it, but it seems to me that the items on the shelf ought to change periodically to keep interest going. And so, maybe we could suggest some things on climate change, on water, on specific environmental problems, on the ecology of San Bruno Mountain, and have the display kind of change that way and rotate.
Yeah.
But that's going to be a fair amount of work to go through the collection of the San Mateo County Library and say, we think that these items would be good to put on the shelf under Climate Week or whatever.
Well, I think that if you
Climate
know things that you would like to put, like I'd like to see, some of Dr. E.O. Wilson's work there and on biodiversity and that type of thing, just request it and they'll tell you whether they have it or not. I mean,
Oh, right.
most of that
I
stuff
know,
they have.
but it is going to be, you can actually look it up. You can look at their whole catalog.
Right.
And, but it is going to be a fair amount of work to group them and to figure out themes. And I think probably once a month the theme should change and the collection should change to keep people's interest going.
Yeah. What we're talking about is curating a collection, and that is it's a great thing, and I think that there's a lot of opportunity there. But Glenn, you're absolutely right. It does, take a little bit of effort. We can pull together some lists of resources and stuff, and then see, which ones are already in the library's collection, and start with that, and then look at, let's see if we can request the library system to
Yeah.
acquire new materials.
Yeah,
for the
there is a provision for that.
Yeah, so I think that's a great idea. Maybe even here's one off the top of my head of getting kids in Lippman or whatever to recommend things that they may have encountered that would be speak to their peer group and stuff.
This would cover both adults and kids, right?
Yeah.
So, as far as E.O. Wilson goes, we could have an E.O. Wilson month. We could have a Rachel Carson month. I mean, there are
Yeah.
a couple new biographies of her that have just come out. So you could feature the things that she herself wrote, maybe have a picture of her.
And there's some stuff that should just be there permanently, like Brisbane's open space plan.
Yeah.
You know.
I was thinking about, rotating it every 3 or 4 months, not every month.
Yeah.
And hopefully if we all come up with 10 items, that's
I mean, I'd like
50
to see it.
pieces.
I don't know whether the Brisbane Library has a copy of Butterflies and Bulldozers. That should
Yeah.
probably be there.
Yeah.
I have a copy. I have 2 copies, but they're for personal use. So
They do.
Yeah.
you have to buy a copy that's for public use. It's different license.
So if we come up with 50 pieces and we change it every 4 months, that'll get us through.
Every 2 months is probably, well, let's see what we come up with. Everybody think of stuff.
Yeah, let's see what everybody think of stuff, and we'll all send those to Natalie prior to the next meeting.
Poor Natalie will send us a reminder. And
Yes,
are we ready to move on to number 5?
I think so. Has everybody agreed?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Environmental Action Plan update and subcommittee update. Glenn, would you like to take this one, or do you want?
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Glenn.
So the Environmental Action Plan Subcommittee, which is mostly so far working on the Environmental Action Plan as a climate action plan, has been meeting fairly regularly, and we've come up with, I think, quite a few ideas. I have not yet been in touch with Dave Pine because I still want to push this idea of the county doing some of these things, but I'm going to write to him later this week. Trying to remember what we have done exactly. We've recommended a number of policies that we want to include on the Environmental Action Plan, and I'm still working on the introductory text, and I just ran out of gas as far as specific things to say. Too many meetings. So would you like to fill in anything?
We came up with a lot of specific things. Some of them I think are going to overlap the Planning Commission's purview, and they will have to be passed along. And there's a couple things I came up with that I think we're going to be housing oriented and stuff. So we'll see. We'll see some of those things, but we'll deal with those things as they come up. Right now, we're just generating ideas, and Karen and Natalie are doing wonderful things to make sense of them. So, Karen, Natalie, do you have anything to add to that?
Without going into, we walked through the first draft of measures and refined it at our last meeting without going through everything, which we will as a whole committee. I do keep getting requests for updates from the council. They're very interested. They mentioned it at the community choice aggregation, that item on the agenda. And so I was asked for an update from the city manager, and I said that we would probably soon be ready to show the liaisons our draft measures and get their feedback, because it's a plan that they need to adopt too. So I think we're getting close to having at least our first draft of what those measures are and what's included, and then from there you would just flesh out the plan and you start trying to quantify what that means.
Hopefully next meeting, I'm hoping we'll get through.
We're meeting again on the 20th of this month.
Natalie, anything to add?
No, I'm just working on refining what we talked about last time and adding more things. And
I'm sorry. I was going to ask if we needed to take a break. Anybody want a break?
No.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Natalie. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so just basically working on that. And so I think maybe next meeting we'll have a good solid list of measures.
Okay. And I did email you what I've written so far of the introductory text so that you could start looking for some pictures to illustrate it. And I trust it will be, I'm sure when you read it, you'll have some ideas for kinds of pictures to include. So you did get that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
One of the things that came up was an environmental procurement policy for the city of Brisbane. Something I brought up when I first joined this committee, and I'm sorry to say the DEIR flushed it right out of my brain. But the city of Brisbane still does not have an environmental procurement policy, which I find a little irksome. So, just because I think the county adopted theirs in 2012, I want to say. I don't have it in front of me anymore. Wait, do I?
I think it was
No.
longer ago because I think they're
Yeah.
looking at revising it now.
Yeah. So I don't like Brisbane to be behind, especially something that I think should be pretty straightforward, like an environmental procurement policy saying, you know, the minimum quantity of recycled content in the paper the city will buy and these kinds of things. You look like you want to say something, Glenn?
We've kind of included that in the environmental action plan, haven't we?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so it's in there as one of the items that we want to include, you know, city purchasing of various things, everything from cars to paper ought to be bought with an eye to reducing its environmental impact. So I thought that was one of the recommendations we were going to make.
It definitely is. My hope was that maybe we could nudge it along in parallel to the, and maybe this is just too much work, but nudge along in parallel to the environmental action plan because I think it really ought to already be in place. And I think that approving one could be a fairly simple, and I'm hoping could be a fairly simple and straightforward practice of basically looking at the counties and maybe doing a little chicken scratch hack and slash and saying, okay, well, this doesn't apply to us, but this does, and hey ho, let's go. How does everybody else on the committee feel about that?
Well, I'm all for environmental procurement. What does the city do now? Are there any guidelines at all on purchasing supplies and things?
You know, I don't think there's anything adopted, but I know that in practice we do use recycled paper in the copy machines, but I don't know extensively that anything else is done in practice. I'm not.
I think, Natalie, you said that they don't use recycled paper. It's just chlorine-free.
No, maybe
Yes.
in the email it wasn't clear because
Okay.
I sent you like the certification that's on the paper.
Yeah, it was FCC certified and chlorine-free, but that FCC is sustainable forestry products. It has nothing to do with recycled content.
It should be recycled. I'll double check.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if it's worth trying to do it in advance of the environmental action plan. I mean, I think if it's in there and we say, you know, similar to San Mateo counties,
All right.
that's probably enough. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm just horrified that it hasn't been accomplished already. Because I brought it up when I first joined this committee, and I'm sorry I dropped the ball on it. What was that, a couple of years ago now? And I guess I'm trying to repair what I feel is my own deficiency.
Okay.
Ready to go on to number 6?
Okay.
Okay, so we had a meeting, and we have set 2 dates for habitat restoration. And we met with the PBNR and Mountain Watch representatives and Peter Steeler and I'm very excited. So our first one is going to be on Earth Day, April 25th, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
So I'm going to interject here, is that before this was decided, somebody was supposed to talk to me because I was going to tell you when Spring Thing was, because we were going to try and not have it conflict with Spring Thing this year because that really fractured our workforce. And of course, spring thing is April 25th.
Well, there are people who are integral to the Habitat Restoration Day that aren't available on the 18th.
Okay.
So we chose the 25th, and it's
If it is
April
what it is,
25th.
that's fine. We'll just have to deal with it again.
Yeah, and it's from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's going to be, it was decided that we were going to do San Mateo Lane, Kings Roadside. And because it has the high need due to the amount of ivy invasion up onto the mountain at that juncture. And then the second Habitat Restoration Day will be on June 27th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And that will be at Firth Canyon, going back to Firth Canyon again. We haven't been there for a couple of years, and we had promised that we would. And so we're going back to Firth Canyon. And then the committees all voted to have 2 T-shirts, one for each, because Russ Carmack felt strongly that people like to collect their T-shirts and everything. And I made a suggestion of artwork, and we're going to be using 2 of David Schooley's original drawings. For the one at San Mateo Lane, we'll be using his coyote drawing of from his brand new book, which is really exciting. And then for and I do have the original artwork here tonight. If anybody wants to see it, it's really gorgeous.
Oh, that's cool.
And the second drawing is the hummingbird, of which Brisbane has quite a lot, and that will be on the Firth Park T-shirt. So, if you want a T-shirt with like the coolest drawings around, you got to come work. And pretty exciting. Everybody's really excited about doing a new site for the first time, and then also doing Firth Park again, revisiting that. As Peter said, that our work in Castañas Canyon has really had a huge impact, and that Castañas Canyon is looking pretty good.
Excellent.
Great.
Is there going to be lunch for?
Yes, there will be lunch both days, both,
Wow.
and Russ Carmack's going to arrange that, and
Great.
yeah, so we're not going to barbecue because that's just a little bit too intense, but we definitely will have lunch both days, and so we're really looking forward to that.
Excellent.
Yeah. So
Great.
cool. Oh, and I almost forgot. Wait, Natalie has a draft. Let me pass it down, and I'll pass it down there, of our first flyer for the one on April 25th.
I'm going to say the one thing I always say, and that is organic grayish T-shirts, if possible. Please, 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 please.
No problem. Natalie's got that taken care of.
Oh, yay! Praise be to the Natalie.
Everyone looked at me in the meeting, grayish, what are you talking about grayish? And I was like, something other than white.
Well, grayish means unbleached, so you avoid that whole chlorine bleach, dioxin, blah, 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 which is something else. It's just, So if you don't bleach it, you avoid a lot of the chemical.
Yeah, I knew what you meant.
Yeah.
I've been hearing it for a couple of years.
Grayish is raw cotton, so it's that sort of slightly yellowy tan.
So that's that for that. You can pass that back.
Yeah. I wanted to look at it. Thank you.
Cool. Who's taking care of publicity?
Well, Natalie, 'cause she's amazing.
Who else?
I hope all of us will be. I know Mountain Watch will be posting on it because we're participating heavily, and the PB&R is participating heavily. City of Brisbane's participating heavily. So we'll do all of our Mountain Watch will do all of its normal promotions, and we'll also be combining our regular habitat restoration that day with this, and also Paul Buscow will lead a hike afterwards.
Great, thank you
Flyer
so much,
looks good.
Michelle.
Yeah, you can bring flyers around as
Hmm?
usual.
Yeah. So, can I ask a question about Bike to Work Day? Have we handled, OSEC hasn't handled this in the past, have they?
No,
Okay.
I think
you're
we've
looking
heard
at me like
staff-
you're horrified, Michelle.
Well, I'm not
We've
horrified.
heard staff reports about it.
Yeah.
The city participates in it, I think,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not sure how.
Yeah, I don't know if we know all the details, but there's definitely staff that coordinates it, and there are volunteers. I guess it's the recreation department, 'cause it's usually, I think, again, Russ Carmick, and then they get donations to hand out, and through the organization that puts it together, they get the bags, the goodie bags that are handed out, and then they track how many people rode bikes that day.
I've participated in the past, and I added it to our agenda items. I thought that maybe Brisbane should, the OSEC committee should just take half a step in supporting this, because biking to work is an important part of sustainability and ecology and keeping our world livable.
No argument. What did you have in mind for us to do?
Well, I thought maybe we could lend a little bit of help with promotion. I thought maybe some of the committee members who are fond of baking could add to the table, because one of the things they offer is a big table of baked sweeties and yummies for the bikers to come and get. They do count the number of bikers that come by, but after doing it, I absolutely had my heart of hearts set on a map that the bikers could rough out their path on, so that we would have a visual representation of, what the effect of this bike to work day was. And for that, I was hoping maybe Michelle could bring a map from work, and maybe the city of Brisbane could transport an easel out there to put it on, and I would provide colored crayons or colored pencils. I decided markers would probably wear through the paper, and marker was not a good idea, but I will provide colored writing instruments, and at the end of it, we can have a map to show off. I think it would just be a piece of beautiful found art.
So are you suggesting like a AAA map?
Yeah. Yeah, one that sort of covers from San Francisco to Palo Alto,
I'll see what we have.
kind of focused in on the Bay Area. The peninsula area, because I think most people don't go farther than Palo Alto.
On their bikes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a couple come
I don't
by that
know.
would go to Palo Alto,
I don't
and I
know,
was
there's
so
some-
impressed.
There's I will definitely look into
there's
it.
the whole
Talk
bike to
our
Google.
map guy.
Yeah.
The whole bike to Google group goes all the way to Mountain View.
Okay,
So
Mountain View. Maybe we need a slightly larger one.
it's just a little further than Palo Alto.
Yeah, but one that's sort of focused in on maybe the bridge to the peninsula.
I'll see what we have.
I know. I'm
I'll ask
being-
our map expert and I'll see what we have.
Yeah.
And if we have them,
Where is
no
this
problem getting.
The table is usually located right at Tunnel and Lagoon Way. And I would encourage you to come out and staff. There's another table in town that is, I want to say Bayshore and Old Country.
Old
No,
County.
Old County, yeah, Old County. And encourage you guys to participate at whatever level you feel comfortable with, because it's a really fun event. And you'd be sure to talk it up.
I'm too lazy to ride my bike up the hill. I walk.
Yeah, that's fine. But if you talk it up, to your friends and say, hey,
Walking is the bike.
you should bike,
To make an exception for one day.
Yeah. If you don't want, talk about it, promote it, post it on your Facebook page, mention it to your Aunt Betty, whatever. That's all I'm asking. It's not going to be it's not going to be one of our staple events. Okay? Anything else? Any questions? Okay.
Natalie, send me a
Well, you could put some flyers, maybe, like
Sure.
and spread them out amongst the businesses, and
Yeah.
citizens around would get more aware of what we're actually doing.
Who usually spearheads the bike to work efforts?
I've ever seen a flyer.
Is it the traffic committee or the?
Seems like.
If there is a committee, it would be Park and Rec
I
Commission.
think it's been
but
Park and Rec. in
What
the
about
past.
complete streets?
we're new, so they haven't.
Complete streets.
I don't know.
Complete streets.
I Susan Maynard has always volunteered.
Yeah, she's a big coordinator of it.
Yeah, I don't think that. Yeah, I guess last year would have been the first year we were even formed
Mm-hmm.
to have
Okay.
Okay.
done anything.
On the subcommittee reports?
I had one thing I forgot about, if everybody will forgive me for one moment, which probably should have gone under oral communication. So let's just all imagine ourselves back up there for one moment. But I applied for a green business certification for my business. And I spent about 2 hours doing the application, and I was scoring through the roof, and I was really excited in almost all the categories except for one. And couple days ago, I got back a very polite email saying that unfortunately the city of Brisbane does not participate in San Mateo County's Green Business Program. So I'd like to know why not. If staff could tell me, I'd appreciate that, because I spent 2 hours busting my hiney on that questionnaire.
Yeah, it's useful that you did that. I think it's
Yeah.
a measure that we can select for our environmental action plan. It probably is that there's a cost and that it hasn't been suggested before, so it's.
Okay.
We actually did talk about it the last
Okay.
time I was working on a subcommittee to do an energy plan for the city of Brisbane, and we talked about it. It seemed like it had sort of gone on hiatus at that point, so maybe we just didn't do anything about it then, but it's definitely been on the radar before. So it would be good if we could find out what's involved in signing up.
Yeah.
I mean, it should be in our environmental action plan, but I don't see any reason we couldn't do it sooner if it's probably a matter of sending a check.
Yeah,
Right.
probably.
But
As long as it's not too big.
so maybe look into it.
Just let us know.
Yeah.
And now, back up to where we're supposed to be, on number 8, subcommittee reports.
I'll report on 8A. I haven't done it yet. Okay. Let's go on to B.
Okay.
I can report on B if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'd love that. So we met 2 weeks ago to take highlighter to map and colored in all of the areas that should be considered as for inclusion within the PCA. And I'm pleased to report that we got just about every little piece of land that is not currently developed, including some that are.
Aaron took the marker away from me.
Yeah, I think we didn't stop until the marker ran out. But no, I feel really good about the areas because there's a lot of thought put into all of the different areas. Certainly, Michelle and well, everybody, put in a lot of effort into defining those areas. And I thought we were going to have a meeting on Monday, and we didn't. Yeah, I showed
Are
up.
we going to have a meeting on Monday?
I think we hadn't finalized
Yeah,
whether to have one, and
it was in my calendar, but
Oh, well, we do need to have a meeting because
Yeah.
now I'm in the owner's task of trying to write the description for each thing.
Yeah.
And I could sure use some help just to sit down and just go, okay, this one's called this, and it's going to be this, and this one's called this, and it's going to be that. And
well, and you might be able to group the similar sub areas and say,
yeah,
area 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is what we want to do. Not have to rewrite something for each.
right. But I want to make sure we get it all correct. And I did, in working with Dell, write kind of a 2-page summary letter of what it's about and why properties are being included.
Yep.
To send to property owners as sort of a, you don't need to do anything. This is what it is.
Yeah, I got that message from him that he said that letter was drafted.
Yeah.
Phone.
And you didn't get a copy of it though?
No,
I'll
not yet. He
send
said he was going to send it, but he hadn't yet.
Okay. If you ping me, I will send you a copy of it, of what I wrote.
Okay.
It's really a bunch of plagiarized stuff from all the different websites, but sort of summarized it so that kind of like what it is, why,
Okay. And staff is going to meet with the council liaisons and show them, well, as much as I have, if I have that, and the draft map, and get their feedback so that when we've got what we want, then I guess we do need a council process where they approve these areas. What they did last year was approve the resolution to apply for a PCA for San Bruno Mountain and corresponding areas, and there wasn't a map at that time, it wasn't specific, but the feedback I'm getting is that they'll support,
Yeah.
they're gonna want this maybe more, they're not gonna be,
Yeah, no, I happened to have a chat with Cliff yesterday, and I mentioned this, and he was pretty positive about it. He didn't realize we were going to be sending it to him, but yeah, so I let him know.
So
but-
can we?
Well, to Michelle's point, I think it would be a good thing if we got together the different, because I'm writing up for a couple along the Bay Shore, and you have a good quantity of them, and I think it would, for the quality of the application, it would be good for us to take some time to put those all together and make sure that they all cover the appropriate areas. And I was looking at the Pacifica PCA application for the one that I was writing, but then I was coming up with questions like who owns the property, because I don't know. So there were some areas that I couldn't fill out completely on mine. So I think we should have like a workshop or something.
Oh, yeah, I'd be very interested in doing that.
Yeah.
Do you have time, any time in the next, during this weekend or anything like that, or?
This weekend might be tough, but we could try to do something in the next 7 to 10 days for sure, because we don't have a lot of time until the application is due. So maybe we can talk about it after the meeting, but
Okay.
I'm sure we can find some time in the next few days to get together.
Okay.
And does that come before the entire committee, or?
Yes. So once the subcommittee puts together its recommendation, then it would come to the full subcommittee or to the full committee, and then it would also go to the council.
I know, because you said you didn't have a lot of time, so I was.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
we're a little short there.
Okay, I'm looking
I-
forward to seeing that soon.
Yeah, actually, now that we mention it, in terms of the timing, do you know when the application is due? I thought that was was I correct in thinking that's the end of this month, or is it the end of next month?
they're due to ABAG in the end of May.
Oh,
I spoke to Sam Hersberg from San Mateo County. He'd asked through Dell, who was spearheading this for us, to have everything by the end of February. And I talked to him earlier this week and said, I don't think we're going to have it by the end of February. We have to have a process on our end.
Yeah.
So I told him I would check in with him after the next step, which was, the council liaisons. And he just wants enough time to take it to the Board of Supervisors, and he wants all of the agencies that are participating, all of their applications together. So
okay.
I'm kind of thinking, well, I guess we should be approving it at the next meeting in March,
Yeah.
and then the council would be right after that.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's
But
March.
actually, I'm hoping that the committee could, if we get it before our next meeting, that they could just review it and kind of sign on. I mean, I don't think there's going to be anything that's controversial.
By email, you mean?
Yeah, no, if we could get sent out, and then we could, orally review it or just approve it at the meeting, rather than spending the
Yes.
time hashing it over and then having it come back again. We should.
Well,
Yeah.
we can't hash it over via email.
No, but if everybody reads it before the
Yes.
meeting, and then we can
Comes
talk
prepared.
about it, and hopefully, be able to have it finished.
Great. I think that's
Agreed.
lovely. Anything else?
No,
No?
that's
Good.
it.
Future presentation of proposed application, is that
That would be
That's
what
what
we
we just
That
talked
was
about.
discussed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That string of words, I didn't parse it quite, I think. C, residential and commercial site treatments, permeable and versus landscaping. I think we finished that.
Yeah, I think I've looked at that letter several times and made some edits, but I don't know where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Is it done? Is it?
Staff has it, and I asked Ken Johnson to sit down with me and just make sure the references are specific to the ordinance, because there are some places where we say the ordinance, and to just
Oh, okay.
kind of
Okay.
refine it so that zoning ordinance here, we're asking for this. And
Mm.
so we can send that back out. I'm going to meet with him next week, and then we can email that back out. And if you guys want to officially approve at a meeting, or if you have all approved it, then you can just kind of give a
I think we
Yeah.
should plan on doing that at next meeting, if this is the case, because I'd like to make sure all the committee has a chance. And then hopefully if everybody has time to do their homework, reads it, then when we get to committee, we can just all stamp it and go.
Okay.
Does that sound all right?
Fine by me.
Thank you. So that brings us on to item 9, staff updates. Funds received from Shea King, land sale, community choice aggregation, Title 24, Volume 2 of the Open Space Plan, and 2010 municipal greenhouse gas data.
It's a lot of updates.
I didn't realize there was a subcommittee to make recommendations.
So there is, and now this has come to us a few weeks ago, so I believe there are 2 council members on such a committee, and they're looking for an open space representative and a planning commission representative and a park and rec commission representative, I believe, to make a decision about how to spend those revenues.
Could you say a little bit about the revenues themselves? I mean,
I don't know what the amount is. I know that there was, one proposed idea was a bicycle and pedestrian master plan that we could use to go after grant funding, but I don't know much more other than we're looking for.
how much money are we talking about?
I know.
For sure. There you go.
And I know because I was absolutely horrified when this action took place.
So could we have some context?
Yes. The city of Brisbane sold to Shanghai Bakery land that was on the old railroad. The railroad track that went around Crocker Industrial Park was deeded to the city of Brisbane. And there was a portion near Shanghai Bakery up on South Hill Drive that they wanted to be able to expand their bakery. And it was public land, publicly owned land, and the city sold it to Shanghai Bakery as part of the economic development plan. And unfortunately, it was an area that was our only public access attached to a public street of public access to Dairy Ravine and on up to Devil's Arroyo. So I was very angry and upset about it. The amount that they sold it for was somewhere in the neighborhood of $300,000, which is, you can't get land back for that. And Terry O'Connell on the council did at least get some easements because it's also part of the watershed and the creek goes through there. And I feel strongly that those funds should be used to acquire other public land of equal or higher habitat value than what was sold. I don't think it should be used to pave trails. I don't think it should be used for anything other than land acquisition. I think that it was really a very unhappy choice that the council made. That's how I personally feel about it, and that land should be used for land acquisition.
So I guess that's what this subcommittee is supposed to figure out, is what the money should go for.
And let me correct, I found the email, it's not the planning commission, it's open space and park and rec and city staff.
So we need to choose somebody from this committee who will be on that subcommittee, is that right?
Yes.
Sounds like Michelle has a vested interest in this one.
I may not be able to keep my temper. I still feel very unhappy about this. I think that it was wrong of us to sell public land, especially public access land that was adjacent to habitat that is, and it's adjacent to habitat that's eventually going to, the mountain. It's currently foremost McKesson property. And I feel so strongly that it should go to not paving trails, I'm just like
Yeah,
over that.
paved trails don't really excite me either.
And
Little concrete ribbons running up the mountain is.
yeah,
Well, I mean, you said a master plan, not for paving trails, right? Could you expand a little more on what the other proposed ideas or idea?
That's the only one that was in the email. That's the
Was a bike,
proposed idea.
a bike and trail master plan.
Master plan.
Spending $300,000 for the plan, not for the trail. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I don't know if that means that they would anticipate such a plan costing all of that amount or not. I didn't get a lot more detail.
Yeah, because I mean,
Sounds like that's the business of a subcommittee when a subcommittee is constituted. So maybe we just need to choose somebody to
Yeah.
be on that. Not me. I'm on enough subcommittees.
I'll do it if Michelle doesn't want to. I mean, I want to give Michelle the right of first refusal because you have some strong opinions, but I'm happy to do it if no one else wants to.
Who are those? Who do you know who the others?
No,
are?
what I read in the email is that it's going to be city staff. So Stuart and Randy, and then the Park and Rec and OSEC, and they would make a recommendation to council.
All right. When do they meet?
As soon as we have these people selected, so they haven't set up a meeting. We don't.
Are you sure you want to take it on, Michelle? You're
Well,
pretty-
I guess I am really busy, and I'd love.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But does the rest of our committee feel the same way I do about that it should be used for acquisition of more public land, since that's what it came from, where we basically gave away public land?
I support having access to public land, absolutely. But, it sounds to me like one of your concerns is access to it. And so we don't necessarily need to acquire land to create access points or whatever. Or maybe we do. So I'm definitely open to entertaining that possibility.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like we sold the land, and it was public land, and it was public land adjacent to, habitat. And I just feel like if we sold public land, then we should use it for acquiring public land, like maybe the Levinson property.
If the Levinson property is even for sale, yeah. I mean, I tend to favor that too, although it could be there's, something I haven't thought of yet that might be a suitable use for the money. But I think it's kind of a good idea. I think several of us now have said that purchasing public land with high habitat value is high on the list. So, maybe you could go to the meeting with that spirit, and but obviously it's a committee. You're going to have to see what else is proposed. And
Yeah, no, I'll definitely take that as the prime the prime directive of the Open Space and Ecology Committee. I do think there's a place for pedestrian and bicycle plans because that can give access to the mountain. But $300,000 on a plan is
no, yeah.
Yeah.
If one of these other groups are going to be sending members, they're all going to have their own agenda
Yeah.
as well.
yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
it's going to be.
And then we would be reporting back to the subcommittee before we make the recommendation to council, or how does that?
reporting back to our
Yeah. So
parent committees.
yeah, exactly.
That I'm not sure because the email did say they wanted to get a recommendation to council in a short amount of time. The email was sent late January and hoping to go to council in March, but here we are
Yike.
mid-February. We don't even have this committee formed yet, so
Why is the money burning such a hole in their pocket?
Sounds like somebody's got an idea.
it does not say in the
Weird.
Natalie,
Park and Rec wants a new park.
the Open Space and Ecology Annual Planner, I just want to point out, does not include the science fair in February. So could you please add that?
Do we have one for 2015 yet?
No, but this is supposed to be an annual calendar, so it should be, you can probably just change this and say Open Space and Ecology Planner 2015 and add the science fair, and it'll probably all be.
I think you might have an old version. I didn't think anyone was ever using it, and so I thought I was the only one using it, so I didn't bother to really update it for anyone besides myself, so I'll send out a different version.
Okay, I like to refer to it.
Did we finish the discussion about?
Stephanie.
Oh, sorry. The reason I got off on track, because I was going to look at the work plan, I had one other thought about the money, and what a terrible time the city has enforcing the habitat, getting developers to protect the habitat, and you said there's watershed there. Is that vulnerable habitat, that watershed?
Well, yeah, all of the watershed is vulnerable.
Okay.
But in this particular case, it's already funneled into a V ditch, which I had originally hoped that we could restore all of the creeks around Crocker Industrial Park.
I was just wondering if there's something specific in that area that you want to preserve. I'm not personally familiar with this piece of property. I know about where it is. But would it be worthwhile spending a small portion of that money on a consultant to make sure that that habitat really is protected? Because a lot of times the developers come in and they stomp, and then they go, whoops.
In this particular case, it really is a watershed that feeds into a V ditch currently. Eventually, I would like us to restore the watershed part of it. The rest of it's going to be a parking lot for a bunch of trucks, because that's what we sold it for.
Okay.
For as part of economic development for a business that pays us no sales taxes.
And this will have to deal with this big parking lot. I assume will have to deal with permeability and infiltration and stormwater, right?
To the extent that we were to get our recommendation adopted before. Yeah.
But I mean, there's already some stuff on the books. But yeah. Okay. That was my only thought, is if there was some specific needs for protection there, we
Well-
might want to enforce that. I know, it's difficult.
Also, Kima, do you feel like you have adequate guidance from the committee to go
I think so.
forward and do battle?
Acquisition, preservation, and restoration of natural habitat is the prime directive.
I'm sure Kimo will be much more diplomatic than I would be. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's still very much a hot.
Yeah,
potato.
no, it's interesting to me as well.
Thank you, Kimo.
Yeah.
Community choice aggregation.
I think Karen mentioned that earlier about potentially putting that in our energy action plan, and we went to a meeting to discuss it, and council approved of us giving our energy data or energy use data for them to do a study on how this would, the feasibility study.
So, so the county's taking the lead on doing the feasibility study, and the city will have a role in shepherding the process or being part of a JPA or however that.
Assuming that a lot of cities agree to do this and it sort of moves forward, do you have any idea how long it would take before we could actually buy green power?
That's a good question. We could probably get back to you because
I realize it's quite new, so you might not know that, but I'm just sort of
Right.
curious, like if it all goes the way that people hope it will go, that we get this. I just wondered, how many years are we talking about?
A glacier's age.
I don't think so. I mean, they made it sound like Sonoma and Marin County, really forged new ground, and it took them longer. But the process should be a lot more streamlined now. If they told us a time frame, I don't remember, so I don't want to just guess at this point. But we can give you an update.
And they're talking about some of the green power being produced in San Mateo County, right?
That's proposed, but they would be looking for places to. It'd be solar farms, I guess, is the idea, or roofs.
We have a good candidate.
Yeah, and
We
they're
should
aware.
do.
They're aware.
I figured, yeah.
I want to back up just one more thing. I was flipping. The reason I saw the calendar was because I was looking at our work plan and wondering if there were any of our other priorities that fed into the Shikang land sale. And I just want to wave in front of everybody's nose and see what they think about maybe spending a little bit of money on litter prevention and education.
I think that we have enough in our regular budget to
Okay.
address that.
Okay.
I think this is a lump sum that they're looking to put on a specific project. And so I would hate to see this money dribbed and drabbed and nickel and dimed and not do something meaningful in terms of land acquisition or environmental project.
Yeah, we don't see sums of money like that very often, so it probably is important to use it all at once and use it on something
Big that we wouldn't
that's
normally be able to reach for. Okay. I just wanted to make sure we'd consider that.
Yeah, and we
you
do
both
have-
very good points.
I mean, we do have stuff. We do have a budget. We can use. I mean, I don't know how much our budget is, but if we need, $1,000 or $2,000 for a litter education campaign where we're really ready to work on it and have some ideas out there, I don't think that we're going to get turned down.
I was thinking I would like to agendize litter for a future meeting, not so much the individual pieces that people are leaving around in the community, but there's been a lot of dumping on San Bruno Mountain lately, a lot.
Yeah.
So 2 days in a row over Guadalupe Canyon Road, there were big trash dumps, and one of the big ones was, I think it was Monday morning, a bunch of tires out there, and and large containers full of I don't know what. And then over the weekend, there were big trash dumps in 3 separate spots. So one of the things that I was hoping we could talk about is, first of all, propping up the no dumping sign, which is lying on its side and not very visible. And
Which one?
it's the one, it's just past Mission Blue going up Guadalupe Canyon Road. It's on the right-hand side of the street if you're westbound, and it's leaning way over. Probably somebody pushed it down. I'd also like to consider somewhat more aggressive signage for up there, which would probably cost some money. Those signs aren't cheap, but maybe, $1,000 fine for littering or whatever it is, or violators will be prosecuted, something. It's gotten pretty bad.
Yeah, it's difficult because a lot of it's county property, park property.
This would have been like right on the border, I think, of the Levinson property is where it is. So I don't know if that's.
That one's probably ours.
Yeah, if it's right on the shoulder of the road, it's still ours, yeah. It's really
That costs the city money too. I mean, they have to
Yeah.
send people out there to pick it up.
We have an arrangement with scavengers that,
Yeah.
and you can, if you don't see it picked up right away, or if you want to, you can enter a service request, and we contact them, put a cone out, and they come and pick up what's out there. There might be a quantity in our franchise agreement, and then there's a charge, but that is an arrangement, and we do patrol them kind of on a weekly basis, those streets that are typically dumped on. It's hard to catch people. I mean, we can put signs up, but it's really difficult to catch people in the act.
Yeah, if you ever see anybody dumping, call the police immediately.
Of
I do.
course.
Yeah.
Of course. I don't suppose there is any way to catch them. I suppose motion detectors or, with cameras or something, but it's really annoying. And it happens a lot on Tunnel Road, too.
Not so much on Tunnel anymore because UPC went and put a bunch of concrete blocks so that you can't pull off the road even in an emergency.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
They're not littering anymore, though.
Not up there. That's why there's so much more on the mountain now.
Oh.
And people got used to coming here to dump because of those dumpsters we had. And so now they come, the dumpsters are gone, and they have a truckload of crap, and so they just look for a place to dump it.
It's always been a problem here.
It's always been a problem, but it's exacerbated now.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe more signage is not worth the money. I think a lot of this is probably, like you said, small-scale commercial operations, people who clean out houses and stuff like that. And,
Yeah.
And they,
We just need some prosecution of some people doing it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Some high visibility prosecutions would be probably one of the more effective things we could do, I would think.
I wonder if the police could be asked to, they're probably spread too thin, but I wonder if they patrol Guadalupe Canyon Road at night, especially.
I think they call it problem-oriented policing, and they can focus on an area if they're asked to, so we can pass that along to be on Guadalupe at night, because it's probably late at night that
Yeah.
this happens, right? After dark.
Probably.
And
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen anybody do it. If I had seen them, I would report them. So I think it's happening at night.
or on the weekends.
So we can pass that on, yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
might as well try.
Title 24?
Well, before you get to that real quick, you were talking about power and green power. There was something in the that email I got about the city news and updates. It was talking about solar power.
Sun shares.
Okay, is that something the OSEC committee is behind, or?
Well, the climate action plan or the environmental action plan that we're working on will include various policy measures to encourage people to install solar.
Okay, it's nothing proposed by
Well,
us, though. Or
No.
Well, I mean, I think we've encouraged this, or supported the city working on it, but the city has been moving ahead with the Sun Shares program on their own, regardless of the environmental action plan. But it's modeled off of one that Foster City did. Is that right?
They're spearheading it, so
They're spearheading it. Okay, so yeah.
Did you want to know more about it?
Well, yeah, I wanted to find out if it was something that was legit, and
Yeah.
because sometimes things, I'm sure anything is put on the page
Right.
there has been looked at, but
Yeah, Foster City is basically getting other cities involved, and we're one of them, and council adopted it, and so I think that's in the works.
okay.
So they're developing a request for proposals to get contractors to give a unit price that would be like a bulk rate purchase, and then
Right,
it's gonna
for
be
groups
available
of
there.
Brisbane.
Our participation is to get the word out in Brisbane, because their concept is to, the more they sell, the cheaper it can be. So
Right,
that's, they're working on that RFP in the spring, and then they're hoping to kick off the program in the summer, and then be able to report in the fall, winter that they got so many
So
people
we
to
should look
purchase
for
solar.
joining this initiative in the spring?
We already agreed to join, but it hasn't,
No,
They-
as citizens, because I know
Oh.
a few people who want to put solar on their roofs, and
there's gonna be a lot of
I said
notification.
we'll hold off until this
Yeah.
thing gets going, because you could see a group bulk discount.
Yes, and it's supposed to be available by summer.
Okay, so I'll just wait for the email. Thank you.
Title 24 training. I went to that. Yeah, it was a little disappointing. Not our trainer. Our trainer was wonderful, but the contractors asked for a short daylight hours, and yet we had a dearth of contractors actually show up. So
Ooh, how many? None? Any?
one
One actual contract.
one Brisbane contractor plus the two guys from Golden State Lumber. I think that was it.
Either a couple homeowners, I don't
Yeah,
know, if a real estate agent.
yeah.
Better than
Publicized it outside Brisbane, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
local contractors got letters in the mail. I believe I reached out to Daly City in South San Francisco. It was even posted on the RICAP's website. I think they announced it as well. So
Yeah, getting contractor participation in any of this stuff has been really difficult, and I have no idea what the answer is.
Well, I'm my personal feeling is to hell with all of them. No, I don't really mean that. But because the contractors asked for a condensed short thing, we got the brown bag thing, and then somebody mentioned that they thought it was too superficial. So, I'd like to try again in 6 months or a year to do another one and do the long version and see how that works.
Maybe this would be something that the county should do because it can cast a wider net.
Yeah.
Maybe we're just too small to get the kind of attendance that we need.
Did we get any, response from the letters at all, or anybody saying, gee, I wish I could have come, but I can't?
no.
I think it's a lot like when we set out all those letters about this polystyrene ban. It was just a house full of crickets.
So you start getting people saying, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to do this anymore. You need to change it. Now it's coming out of your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
They'll start getting more interested then.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, I still feel like it's a good idea. I still feel like it's an important idea. I would like to again revisit it. If you could put it on our calendar for 6 or 9 months or a year from now, Natalie, and we'll come back to it and see if maybe we want to try it again and see if maybe the public is ready next time around. But please, Natalie and Karen, say anything you'd like to say about the Title 24 training.
I thought it was useful too, I guess, from a contractor perspective. You know, there's so much in that subject matter that I think it's hard to know what contractors are interested in what part, and I think that it was that they don't want to come to a 4-hour class unless they, again, if they have to. That's why we chose the short one. So
No, it made total sense at the time. It just,
yeah, I learned a lot from it.
I loved it.
Yeah.
But I'm ready for the long version.
We tried to film to record it and be able to replay it on the website, but we had technical problems and we didn't. But that would have been at least would have been more available to people.
Yeah, and next time we'll do that.
The slides are on our webpage.
Yes, Natalie and Karen got them up there. So, and some people who said they regretted not coming to the meeting, I was able to point them to that. So, I was maybe 2 people.
Yeah. Well, and we did outreach. People that came in for permits. Anyone I saw at the counter, I put the handbill in their hand so that they had the information. But I'm not sure if contractors are using specialty people to do this type of stuff, and they, the general contractors don't necessarily want to know it, or it's timely. I'm not sure exactly what would get more people to come to our free training. So.
Okay.
Thanks for putting it together. I did look at the slides, and they look good, and so I think it was really a good effort. But we ran into this when I was sitting on the energy upgrade, when I was Brisbane representative of the energy upgrade, San Mateo energy upgrade. It was the same thing, people trying to train contractors and very little participation from the contractors. It was just really tough to do. And I don't know why.
Probably because time is money.
Time is money.
Volume 2 of the open space plan?
Yep, volume 2 of the open space plan.
So you saw the big folder that Fred handed to me. He was able to get a disc that had all of those components but in separate folders, so it takes some organization on my part. So I have the big binder to reference, and I've been working on that, but I think it'll take a while. I worked on it a little bit yesterday, and I felt like I made a very small dent in a very large folder, so maybe I'll put them up by sections rather than just hoping to put the entire thing up on their website at once.
Don't feel discouraged. You are doing a good job to get it done and have it in digital form instead of a binder that could go up and poof, So just stay the course.
Yeah.
Even if it's,
We keep interrupting you with other things to do, so.
yeah. Maybe you could get a high school student to help you with some of that in the summer. Maybe one of the pool lifeguards while they're lounging around waiting for the pool to get refilled.
It's definitely a good mental break. Yeah. So 2010 municipal greenhouse gas data, we were collecting that data for Beacon Award, and then we'll also use it in our greenhouse gas emissions for our environmental action plan. And I submitted it last week. I haven't heard that anything was wrong or that anything needed to be done over, so fingers crossed that's complete.
Is that supposed to be updated on some kind of regular basis, or is there a regular interval at which it gets done again?
I think every 5 years.
Okay.
So we'll know what to do very shortly for 2015. We're prepped and ready.
Okay.
Is that everything? Does anybody else have any last minute chirps, peeps, or squawks they'd like to add?
What is the date of our next? Oh, on the screen. Is that a Wednesday?
Yes.
It's a Wednesday, Michael.
I should remember that one a lot easier.
So what Wednesday, the first,
March 11th.
yeah, okay.
Assuming that we get a final draft of the sustainability plan, I think we're being kind of pushed on this to get it reviewed and get the comments in and things. How would people feel about the possibility of a second meeting in March, if that proves to be necessary? I mean, it's not what I want, but
It's fine with me. I mean, I signed on to work on this committee, and work is what I plan to do.
It's better if it's not on a Wednesday night.
Okay. You don't want to miss your class twice, I understand.
Yeah, it kind of puts me behind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be out of town at least part of the week of March 23rd. So I don't know, but since I have seen the sustainability plan already, I don't. Maybe
You want us to meet without you? Yeah. Oh, I'm. Motion to.
The first, second, and fourth Tuesday of the month is not so good.
Yeah, I have my class Tuesday, so let's say maybe not Tuesday. So,
So, is there a move to adjourn?
Nobody's made such a move yet.
I
still
am.
I move to adjourn.
I second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
So Barbara, before you take off, you.